The Great Hall of the Galaxy Council was bigger than most cities. Floating high above the planet Nexus Prime, the Crystal Building held representatives from every corner of the galaxy. Today, something was very wrong. Jake Martinez sat in his chair looking around at the hundreds of alien faces staring back at him. As Earth's representative to the Council, he had attended many meetings, but he had never seen the other species look so angry and afraid. The blue-scaled Zephyrian named Krell stood at the center of the room. His long neck stretched up as he spoke, and his voice carried to every corner through the translation devices. "Council members," Krell said, his words sharp with anger. "Today we face the worst crime in galactic history. The humans have broken the most important law we have. They have attacked their own home planet." The room exploded with noise. Aliens of all shapes and sizes turned to look at Jake. Some made angry sounds in their own languages. Others backed away from him as if he carried a disease. Jake felt his heart racing. He had no idea what Krell was talking about. Earth was fine when he left 3 months ago. His wife Amy was teaching at the university. His son Danny was playing in the Little League. There was no war on Earth. The giant bug-like chancellor named Zach raised all 4 of his arms for silence. His insect eyes looked down at Krell from the high judge's seat. "These are serious words, Ambassador Krell," Zach said in his clicking voice. "Show us your proof." The lights in the hall dimmed. Huge screens appeared in the air above everyone's heads. Jake looked up and felt sick to his stomach. The screen showed Earth from space, but this was not the Earth he knew. Massive ships that looked exactly like human warships surrounded the planet. Fire and explosions covered the surface. Cities burned. The beautiful blue and green world he called home was covered in smoke and flame. "As you can see," Krell continued, pointing at the terrible images, "humanity has done the unthinkable. They have turned their weapons on their own world. Terra burns under human guns and bombs." The screens showed more horrible sights. Human ships firing on human cities, space stations exploding, millions of people running in panic through burning streets. The images were so clear and detailed that no one could doubt what they were seeing. Jake stood up slowly. His legs felt weak, but he had to speak. "Council members," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "I don't understand what we're seeing here. These things never happened on my world." The room went completely quiet. Every eye, antenna, and sensor turned toward him. A beautiful crystal being named Valara spoke up. Her body glowed with soft light as she talked. "Captain Martinez, are you saying this evidence is fake?" Jake looked around the room at all the faces watching him. Some looked angry. Others looked confused. A few looked scared. "I'm saying it's impossible," Jake replied, his voice getting stronger. "Those ships might look like ours, but they're not from Earth. My people are not at war with each other." Krell's scales turned a darker blue, which Jake knew meant the alien was getting more upset. "How can you deny what we all see with our own eyes?" Krell demanded. "These are your ships, your weapons, your people killing each other." Jake shook his head firmly. "No, they're not. I speak to Earth every week through the quantum radio. My government tells me about everything that happens. There is no civil war. There are no burning cities. Earth is at peace." The room erupted again with arguing voices in dozens of languages. Some aliens clearly believed Jake was lying. Others seemed confused by his calm denial of such clear evidence. Dr. Elena Ross, Jake's science advisor, stood up next to him. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her voice was strong and clear. "Council members," she said, "I've been studying the technical details of these images. The ships look like ours, but there are small differences. The metal they're made from is not quite the same as what we use on Earth. Unit 7742, a robot-like being from the Nexari species, spoke up from the investigation panel. The Nexari were famous throughout the galaxy for never lying and always finding the truth. "Interesting observation, Dr. Ross," Unit 7742 said in its mechanical voice. "Our preliminary scans do show unusual metal signatures in these vessel images." Krell waved one of his long arms dismissively. "Small differences could be explained by battle damage or secret modifications. The evidence is clear. Humans are destroying their own world." But Jake could see that some of the council members were starting to have doubts. The peaceful Lumini were whispering among themselves. Even some of the warlike Korgani looked uncertain. Amy Foster, Jake's communications officer, was working frantically on her tablet computer. She looked up with excitement in her eyes. "Captain," she said quietly, "I've been checking all our communication logs with Earth. Every single transmission from the past 6 months shows normal, peaceful activities. Just yesterday, Earth reported that the harvest festivals were starting across 3 continents. Jake turned back to face the Council. Members of the Galaxy Council, I request permission to contact Earth directly, right now, using your quantum communication system. Let my government speak for itself. Chancellor Zack considered this request. His large insect head tilted to one side as he thought. Very well, Zack finally said. We will allow direct communication. But know this, Captain Martinez. If your government confirms these attacks, humanity will face the harshest punishment in galactic law. Jake nodded. He was confident that Earth would prove his words true, but as he looked up at the terrible images still playing on the screens above, he couldn't shake a cold feeling in his stomach. Someone had gone to great trouble to make these fake pictures. But who and why? The other question that bothered him was how real the images looked. Every detail was perfect, from the design of the ships to the way the explosions spread through space. Whoever made these fake images knew a lot about human technology and Earth itself. As the Council prepared to make contact with Earth, Jake realized that solving this mystery would be harder than just proving his innocence. Someone wanted the galaxy to believe that humans were dangerous and violent. Until he found out who and why, both he and his entire species would be in terrible danger. The great crystal hall fell silent as the quantum communication system powered up. In a few minutes, the truth would begin to come out. Jake just hoped it would be enough to save humanity from a galaxy that now saw them as monsters. Chancellor Zack called for a break while the Council's technical team set up the quantum communication link to Earth. Jake Martinez was escorted to a small room with his 3 team members. The room had no windows, and 2 Korgani guards stood outside the door. Amy Foster paced back and forth, her tablet in her hands. She was Jake's communications officer and had worked with him for 5 years. Her red hair bounced as she walked, and Jake could see she was both angry and worried. This is insane, Jake, Amy said, stopping to face him. Those images are so detailed and perfect. Whoever made them knows everything about our ships, our cities, even our military tactics. Dr. Ben Parker sat at the small table in the center of the room. He was the team's expert on alien cultures and had always been the calm one in any crisis. But today even he looked shaken. The question is why, Ben said, adjusting his glasses. What does someone gain by making the galaxy think we're at war with ourselves? Elena Ross was studying data on her own tablet. As the team's chief scientist, she had been analyzing the images from the moment they appeared. I've found more problems with those pictures, Elena said, looking up from her work. The sun's light in the background is wrong. It's too bright and the wrong color for our solar system. Jake leaned against the wall, thinking hard. So we have fake images that are almost perfect, but not quite. Someone made a mistake. Amy nodded eagerly. And I've been monitoring Earth's communications for months. Everything is normal. Last week, the African Union started building new solar power stations. The Asian Federation is planning a cultural exchange with the European Alliance. These are not the actions of a world at war. A soft chime sounded, and Unit 7742's mechanical voice came through the room's speaker. Captain Martinez, please report to Communication Chamber 7. The quantum link to Earth is ready. The 4 humans walked through the crystal corridors of the Council station. Alien beings of all kinds stopped to stare at them as they passed. Some looked angry, others seemed curious, and a few appeared frightened. Jake realized that news of the accusations had already spread throughout the station. Communication Chamber 7 was a large room filled with glowing screens and strange alien technology. The quantum communication device sat in the center like a metal tree with crystal branches. Chancellor Zack was there along with representatives from 6 other species. Captain Martinez, Zack said, you may now speak with your home government. The communication will be recorded and broadcast to the full council. Jake stepped up to the device. A technician pressed several buttons and suddenly a 3-dimensional image appeared in the air. It was Admiral Kate Sullivan, the head of Earth's Space Command. Admiral Sullivan was a tough woman in her 50s with short gray hair and sharp blue eyes. She had been Jake's commanding officer for 10 years, and he had never been happier to see her face. Jake, Admiral Sullivan said with a smile. Good to see you. How are the talks going with the Council? Admiral, we have a serious problem, Jake said. The Council has been shown images that appear to show Earth under attack by our own forces. They're accusing us of a civil war. Admiral Sullivan's smile disappeared instantly. Her face became serious and confused. A civil war? Jake, what are you talking about? Earth is completely peaceful. Right now, we're hosting the Global Science Fair in New London. The children from Mars Colony just won first place for their project on growing food in low gravity. Jake felt relief wash over him, but he could see that some of the alien representatives still looked doubtful. Admiral, can you confirm the current status of our military forces? Of course, Admiral Sullivan said. All fleet units are accounted for and on normal patrol duties. The Mercury Squadron is conducting training exercises near Venus. The Jupiter Defense Fleet is escorting a convoy of supply ships to the outer colonies. No combat operations are taking place anywhere in our space. Ambassador Krell, who had been watching silently, stepped forward. Admiral Sullivan, are you denying that your forces have attacked Earth? Admiral Sullivan looked directly at the blue-scaled alien. I am absolutely denying it. Earth has not seen combat in over 50 years. We are currently celebrating the anniversary of the Peace of Luna, which ended the last conflict between Earth and the colonies. Elena Ross moved closer to the communication device. Admiral, we need technical confirmation. Can you send us the current positions and identification codes for all human military vessels? Transmitting now, Admiral Sullivan replied. Data began flowing across the screens around the chamber. Unit 7742 processed the information quickly. Interesting. According to this data, all human military vessels are accounted for and nowhere near Earth. The ships in the attack footage do not match any vessel in the human fleet registry. But Krell was not giving up. The humans could have secret ships. Hidden fleets built for this attack. Ben Parker stepped forward. Ambassador Krell, building warships requires massive industrial facilities, raw materials, and thousands of workers. You can't hide a fleet. Amy Foster was working on her tablet again. Suddenly, she looked up with excitement. I found something, she announced. I've been analyzing the signal patterns in the attack footage. There's a hidden data signature embedded in the transmission. What kind of signature? Chancellor Zack asked. It's a Zephyrian encryption code, Amy said. The footage was transmitted using Zephyrian equipment. The room went completely silent. Everyone turned to look at Krell. The Zephyrian ambassador's scales changed color from blue to a dark purple. That proves nothing, Krell said, but his voice was shaky. Our equipment is used throughout the galaxy. Anyone could have access to it. Elena Ross had been studying the data from Earth. Now she made another discovery. There's something else, she said. The metal signatures in the attack footage don't match any materials from our solar system. The trace elements are all wrong. Unit 7742 confirmed Elena's findings. Correct. The metallurgical analysis indicates these materials could not have been produced using resources available in the Sol system. Admiral Sullivan was still listening through the quantum link. Jake, this is getting stranger by the minute. Do you want me to send a full scientific report on our current industrial capacity? Yes, Admiral. Send everything. As more data flowed into the Council's computers, the evidence became impossible to ignore. Not only was Earth peaceful, but the attacking ships in the footage were made from materials that didn't exist in human space. But this raised an even bigger question. If the ships weren't human, who had built them? And how did they look exactly like human vessels? Dr. Parker voiced what everyone was thinking. If these aren't our ships, then someone has built perfect copies of our technology using alien materials. Chancellor Zack's insect features showed deep concentration. This suggests a level of deception far beyond simple video fabrication. Someone has gone to extraordinary lengths to frame humanity. Jake looked around the room at the alien faces. Some looked convinced by the evidence. Others still seemed suspicious. But Krell looked more nervous with each new piece of information. Council members, Jake said. I request a full investigation into the source of these images. Someone is trying to destroy the relationship between humanity and the galactic community. We need to find out who and why. As the quantum link to Earth closed, Jake realized that proving humanity's innocence was only the beginning. Somewhere in the galaxy, someone had the technology and the motivation to frame an entire species for a crime they didn't commit. Finding that someone would be much harder than simply telling the truth. But Jake was determined to solve this mystery. The future of humanity's place in the galaxy depended on it. The investigation moved to the Council's main computer center, a room filled with glowing screens and processing units from a dozen different species. Unit 7742 led the technical analysis while Jake and his team watched nervously. Beginning deep scan of the footage, Unit 7742 announced in its mechanical voice, analyzing temporal markers, light frequencies, and gravitational data. Elena Ross stood next to the Nexari investigator, studying the data as it appeared on the screens. Her scientific training helped her understand what the alien technology was revealing. There, Elena said, pointing at a series of numbers. Look at the starlight patterns in the background of the footage. Unit 7742 processed the information quickly. Anomaly detected. The stellar positions in this footage do not match current star charts for the Sol system. Amy Foster leaned closer to look at the data. What does that mean? It means, Elena explained, that either the stars have moved, which is impossible, or this footage was taken from a different location in space. Or possibly a different time. Ben Parker rubbed his forehead as he tried to understand. Different time? Are you saying this footage is from the past or future? Or, Elena said slowly, from a completely different reality. The room fell silent except for the humming of computers. The idea of alternate realities was something most species considered pure fantasy. Unit 7742 continued its analysis. Additional anomaly detected. Solar radiation patterns in the footage indicate a star with different properties than Sol. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. You're saying this isn't our sun? Correct. The star in this footage has a higher radiation output and different spectral characteristics. This cannot be the Sol system. Ambassador Valara, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. Her crystal body pulsed with thoughtful light. If this footage shows events from a different place entirely, how can Ambassador Krell claim it shows Earth? All eyes turned to Krell. The Zephyrian had been getting more and more uncomfortable as the investigation progressed. His scales had changed color several times, and now they were almost black. The similarities are obvious, Krell said weakly. Human ships, human tactics, human aggression. But Amy Foster had made another discovery. She was working on a different computer, analyzing the communication signals hidden in the footage. Captain, she called out excitedly, I found the source of the transmission. The footage didn't just use Zephyrian equipment, it was broadcast directly from a Zephyrian research station. Unit 7742 confirmed Amy's findings. Communication logs show the footage originated from Zephyrian Deep Space Station Omega-7. This station is classified as a scientific research facility. Chancellor Zack turned his large insect head toward Krell. Ambassador, you will explain why footage allegedly showing human crimes originated from your people's research station. Krell looked around the room like a trapped animal. His long neck stretched nervously and his scales continued to change color. This is not what it seems, Krell stammered. Then explain what it is, Jake said firmly. For a long moment, Krell said nothing. Then slowly his shoulders slumped in defeat. We have been conducting research into parallel dimensions, he admitted quietly. The room erupted with shocked voices. Parallel dimension research was forbidden by galactic law because it was considered too dangerous. You have violated Council Law 847 Delta, Chancellor Zack said sternly. Interdimensional research is banned for good reason. We had to, Krell said desperately. You don't understand what we've seen. Elena Ross stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her anger. What have you seen, Ambassador? Krell looked around the room one more time, then seemed to make a decision. 3 years ago, our scientists accidentally made contact with a parallel reality, a universe very much like ours, but with important differences. What kind of differences? Ben Parker asked. In that reality, Earth suffered a massive solar flare 200 years ago. Most of the planet was destroyed. Humanity barely survived, and they became different. Jake felt his heart racing. Different how? Violent, desperate, aggressive. In that reality, when humans reached the stars, they didn't come in peace. They conquered everything they found. They enslaved entire species. They turned the galaxy into a war zone. The room was completely silent now. Everyone was listening to Krell's story with growing horror. The Galaxy Council in that reality begged us to prevent the same thing from happening here, Krell continued. They said that humanity was like a virus that would destroy everything if allowed to spread. Amy Foster shook her head angrily. So you decided to frame us for crimes we didn't commit? The plan was not to destroy you, Krell said quickly. We only wanted to limit your expansion, keep you in your home system until we could be sure you wouldn't follow the same path. Elena Ross was studying the data on her tablet. Ambassador Krell, I need to see all your research data on this parallel reality. That information is classified by my government. Not anymore, Chancellor Zack said firmly. By council authority, you will provide all data related to this investigation. Reluctantly, Krell transmitted files from his personal device to the Council's computers. Elena and Unit 7742 began analyzing the information immediately. Fascinating, Elena said after several minutes. According to this data, the parallel Earth experienced a Class X solar flare in the year 1823. Such an event would have destroyed most of the planet's atmosphere and killed billions of people. The survivors would have been desperate, Ben Parker added, fighting for resources on a dying world. That kind of environment would create a very different culture. Amy Foster looked up from her own analysis. Captain, the environmental factors that created the aggressive alternate humanity don't exist in our reality. We never had that solar flare. Our development has been completely different. Unit 7742 processed all the new information and provided its logical conclusion. Analysis complete. The premise for Zephyrian actions is scientifically invalid. The environmental and historical factors that created aggressive behavior in the alternate humanity are not present in this reality. Therefore, using alternate reality data to judge this reality's humanity is illogical. Jake felt relief but also anger. So you nearly started a galactic war based on something that happened to different humans in a different universe? Krell's scales turned a pale blue, which Jake had learned meant shame and regret among Zephyrians. We were afraid, Krell said simply. In the other reality, humanity destroyed everything. We thought we were preventing a terrible future. Valara's crystal form pulsed with sad light. Fear led you to condemn an innocent species for crimes committed by their alternate selves. But Elena Ross had found something else in the data that made her eyes widen with excitement. Wait, she said. There's more here. According to these readings, the alternate reality's Earth is still inhabited. The aggressive humans from that dimension are gone, but there are survivors. Peaceful survivors who are trying to rebuild their world. Jake looked at the data Elena was showing him. You mean there are people in that other reality who need help? According to this, yes. The solar radiation has finally decreased enough for the planet to be habitable again, but they have very little technology or resources left. Jake looked around the room at all the alien faces watching him. An idea was forming in his mind, an idea that could turn this disaster into something positive. Council members, Jake said, I think we have an opportunity here. Instead of punishing the Zephyrians for their mistake, we can use this discovery to help people who really need it. Chancellor Zack tilted his insect head curiously. What do you propose, Captain Martinez? Jake smiled for the first time since the crisis began. I propose we use this interdimensional contact to do what humans do best, help people in need. Jake's proposal sent waves of surprise through the council chamber. Instead of demanding punishment for the Zephyrians, he was suggesting they work together to help the survivors in the alternate reality. Chancellor Zack leaned forward in his tall chair. Captain Martinez, you would forgive those who tried to frame your species. I understand why they were afraid, Jake replied. They saw a version of humanity that became a threat to the galaxy. But we're not those people. We can prove that by helping the survivors in that other reality. Ambassador Krell looked confused and hopeful at the same time. His scales had turned a lighter blue. You would help us fix our mistake? Krell asked carefully. Elena Ross was still studying the dimensional data on her tablet. Captain, according to this information, the alternate Earth's population has dropped to less than 50 million people. Most of their cities are ruins. They're essentially starting civilization over again. Ben Parker nodded thoughtfully. That would explain why the aggressive humans from that reality are gone. The ones who survived were probably the peaceful ones who focused on rebuilding rather than conquering. Amy Foster looked up from her own computer work. I've been analyzing the communication logs between our reality and theirs. The messages from the alternate Galaxy Council stopped 6 months ago. Something might have happened. Unit 7742 processed this information quickly. If contact has been lost, it could indicate either technical failure or significant changes in the alternate reality. Jake turned to Krell. Ambassador, we need to know everything about your contact with the other reality. Can we speak to them directly? Krell hesitated, then nodded slowly. The dimensional communication equipment is on Research Station Omega-7. But I must warn you, the last messages we received were disturbing. Disturbing how? Elena asked. The alternate Galaxy Council reported that their aggressive human empire had collapsed completely. But the collapse brought chaos. Many species were fighting over the territory the humans had controlled. The galaxy was falling apart. Chancellor Zack made a clicking sound that indicated deep thought. So the removal of the aggressive humans created a power vacuum that led to more conflict. Exactly, Krell confirmed. The other council members were becoming desperate. Some wanted to abandon their civilizations and escape to uninhabited worlds. Jake felt a growing sense of urgency. How long would it take to reach your research station? 2 days by fast ship, Krell replied. Then we need to go there immediately, Jake said. If we can re-establish contact with the alternate reality, we might be able to help both the human survivors and the other species. Valara's crystal form pulsed with warm light. The Lumini support this mission of mercy. Helping those in need is always the right choice. Ambassador Tethavar of the warlike Korgani Empire spoke up. His scarred face showed unexpected respect. The humans show honor by helping their enemies, he said gruffly. This proves they are not the monsters some claimed them to be. But not everyone was convinced. Ambassador Zentar of the cautious hegemony raised a tentacled appendage. This is still dangerous research, Zentar said in a bubbling voice. Interdimensional contact could have unpredictable consequences. Elena Ross addressed the council. Ambassador Zentar is right about the dangers, but we already have an established connection. The question is whether we use it responsibly or abandon people who need our help. Jake stepped forward to address the full council. I propose we create a joint task force to study this dimensional contact and establish proper safety protocols. Humanity will take full responsibility for the mission, but we want representatives from other species to monitor everything we do. Chancellor Zack considered this proposal. You would submit to oversight and monitoring? Absolutely, Jake replied. We want the galaxy to see that humans can be trusted with dangerous technology. Amy Foster had been working on her tablet throughout the discussion. Now she looked up with important news. Captain, I've been analyzing the technical specifications of the Zephyrian dimensional equipment. With some modifications, we could not only re-establish contact, but also send small amounts of supplies through to the other reality. This announcement caused excited murmuring throughout the council chamber. Supplies? Krell asked. You mean physical objects? Basic medical supplies, food concentrates, maybe some simple tools, Amy explained. Nothing large, but enough to help the survivors. Elena Ross was already thinking about the scientific implications. We'd need to test everything carefully. Different realities might have slightly different physical laws. Ben Parker raised another important point. We'd also need to be very careful about what we send. We don't want to accidentally introduce diseases or contamination. Unit 7742 had been analyzing Amy's technical data. The proposed modifications appear feasible. However, I recommend extensive safety testing before any transfer attempts. Jake looked around the council chamber. He could see that many of the alien representatives were becoming interested in the project despite their initial concerns. Council members, Jake said, this could be the start of something amazing. Imagine if we could help entire civilizations that are suffering in other realities. Imagine the scientific knowledge we could gain from studying different versions of the universe. Chancellor Zack raised his arms for attention. The council will vote on Captain Martinez's proposal. All in favor of creating a joint task force for interdimensional research and assistance? One by one, the representatives voted. The Lumini voted yes immediately. The Korgani voted yes after a moment of consideration. Even the cautious hegemony voted yes, though they insisted on strict safety protocols. When the vote was complete, the result was overwhelming. 47 species voted in favor, only 3 voted against, and 2 abstained. The motion passes, Chancellor Zack announced. Captain Martinez, you will lead this task force with oversight from the Council's Science Committee. Jake felt a mixture of excitement and responsibility. This was a chance for humanity to show the galaxy what they were really like. Not conquerors or destroyers, but helpers and builders. Krell approached Jake as the council session ended. The Zephyrian scales were now a bright blue color that Jake had learned indicated hope and gratitude. Captain Martinez, Krell said, I owe you and your species a great apology. We judged you based on fear rather than facts. Jake extended his hand in the human gesture of friendship. After a moment's hesitation, Krell reached out and shook it. We all make mistakes, Ambassador, Jake said. What matters is what we do to fix them. Elena Ross joined them. her tablet full of preliminary plans. If we're going to do this right, we'll need the best scientists from multiple species. The dimensional physics alone will require expertise none of us have individually. Amy Foster was already making notes. I'll start working on the communication protocols. We need to make sure we can talk to the other realities safely and clearly. As the group prepared to leave for Research Station Omega-7, Jake reflected on how the day had changed. They had started with humanity accused of terrible crimes. Now they were leading a mission to help people in another universe entirely. It was, Jake thought, a very human solution to an impossible problem. Instead of fighting or arguing, they had chosen to help. Maybe that was what would truly prove to the galaxy that this reality's humans were different from their alternate selves. The future was uncertain, but for the first time since the crisis began, Jake felt hopeful. Humanity was about to embark on its greatest adventure yet. Not as conquerors, but as friends to people they had never met in a universe they had never seen. 2 days later, Jake Martinez stood on the observation deck of the Joint Task Force ship as it approached Zephyrian Research Station Omega-7. The station was much larger than he had expected, with crystalline structures extending in all directions like a metallic flower in space. The task force ship carried representatives from 12 different species, all working together on humanity's first interdimensional mission. Elena Ross had spent the entire journey working with Zephyrian scientists to understand their dimensional technology. Amy Foster had been setting up communication protocols with technicians from 4 different worlds. "Approaching the station now," announced Commander Rick Hayes from the bridge. Rick was Jake's security chief, a calm man who had served in Earth's space fleet for 20 years. As their ship docked with the research station, Jake could see the massive dimensional equipment through the transparent aluminum walls. The machinery looked like a combination of crystal formations and metal rings, all glowing with soft blue energy. Dr. Vex, the lead Zephyrian scientist, met them at the airlock. Unlike Ambassador Krell, Vex had scales that shifted from green to silver, and her voice was softer and more melodic. "Captain Martinez," Dr. Vex said, "welcome to Omega-7. I must apologize for my people's actions. Fear made us do foolish things." "We're here to fix mistakes, not dwell on them," Jake replied. "Can you show us the dimensional communication system?" Dr. Vex led the team through corridors lined with strange equations and star charts. The research station was clearly designed for serious scientific work. "Here is our main laboratory," Dr. Vex said, gesturing to a huge room filled with the glowing dimensional equipment. Elena Ross immediately began examining the machinery with wide eyes. "This is incredible. You've actually stabilized a dimensional breach?" "For 3 years now," Dr. Vex confirmed. "But the connection has been weakening lately. We think something major has changed in the alternate reality." Amy Foster was setting up her communication equipment. "Let's find out what happened. Can you open a channel?" Dr. Vex operated several controls, and the crystal formations began to glow brighter. Strange harmonics filled the air as the dimensional breach opened. "Connection established," Dr. Vex announced. "We are now linked to the alternate reality." Amy spoke into her communication device. "This is Amy Foster of the Earth Task Force calling the Alternate Galaxy Council. Please respond." For several long moments there was only static. Then a weak voice came through the speakers. "Earth Task Force, this is Dr. Sarah Kim on New Geneva Station." "Did you say Earth?" Jake stepped forward. "Dr. Kim, this is Captain Jake Martinez. We're from a parallel reality where Earth was never damaged by solar flares. We want to help your people." The voice on the other end became emotional. You're really from another Earth? An Earth that survived?" "Yes," Elena Ross said, joining the conversation. "We've learned about your reality from the Zephyrians. We know your Earth was badly damaged, and we want to help with recovery efforts." "Oh my God," Dr. Kim said, and they could hear her crying. "We thought we were alone. Most of the other species gave up hope and left the galaxy. The few that remained are struggling just to survive." Amy Foster leaned toward the microphone. "Dr. Kim, can you tell us about your current situation?" "There are about 40 million humans left on Earth," Dr. Kim explained. "We've been working for decades to clean up the radiation and rebuild. The oceans are finally becoming safe again, and some plants are starting to grow." Ben Parker, who had been listening carefully, asked, "What about the other species in your galaxy? The ones who stayed?" "There are maybe a dozen species left," Dr. Kim replied. "Most are on their homeworlds trying to rebuild their own civilizations. The Lumini lost most of their crystal cities. The Korgani are down to just one planet. Everyone is struggling. Jake felt his heart breaking for these alternate versions of people he had come to know. Dr. Kim, we want to send you supplies. Medical equipment, food, tools for rebuilding. Would that help? You can do that? Send things through dimensions? Elena Ross answered, We think so. We've been working with the Zephyrian scientists to modify their equipment. We could start with small items and work up to larger supplies. Amy Foster had been monitoring the dimensional connection. The signal is getting stronger. I think our modifications are working. Dr. Vex operated more controls and the crystal formations glowed even brighter. Connection stability is increasing. We should be able to transfer small objects within the hour. Jake turned to address his entire team. Everyone knows what we're doing here. This is about showing that humanity and the galaxy can be better than our worst impulses. We're here to help, not to conquer. The next few hours were busy with preparation. Elena Ross and Dr. Vex worked together to calibrate the dimensional transfer system. Amy Foster established clear communication protocols between the realities. Ben Parker organized the supplies they had brought. Medical kits, food concentrates, water purification tablets, and small tools. When everything was ready, Jake spoke to Dr. Kim again. Dr. Kim, we're going to send through a small test package first. It contains basic medical supplies and instructions for setting up a permanent communication link. We're ready on this end, Dr. Kim replied. Captain Martinez, I can't tell you what this means to us. For so long, we thought we were the only ones left. Dr. Vex activated the transfer system. The crystal formations pulsed with energy, and a small container disappeared in a flash of blue light. Transfer complete, Dr. Vex announced. We received it. Dr. Kim's voice came through excitedly. The container is intact and everything inside is perfect. Over the next several hours, they sent through more supplies. Each successful transfer brought cheers from Dr. Kim and her team in the alternate reality. But Jake was thinking about the bigger picture. As the transfers continued, he had an idea. Dr. Kim, Jake said, we want to establish a permanent aid program. Not just supplies, but knowledge sharing. Our Earth has developed technologies that could help you rebuild faster. That would be amazing, Dr. Kim replied. But can your people really commit to helping strangers in another universe? Elena Ross smiled as she answered. Dr. Kim, that's exactly the kind of thing humans do best. When we see people who need help, we help them. Amy Foster had been working on something special. Dr. Kim, I'm sending through communication equipment that will let you talk directly to Earth. You'll be able to speak with our scientists, doctors, and engineers whenever you need advice. As the mission continued, representatives from other species began contacting the alternate reality survivors. Valara's people reached out to the damaged Lumini civilization. The Korgani offered to share military technology for defense against dangerous wildlife on the recovering worlds. By the end of the day, they had established contact with survivors from 8 different species in the alternate reality. Each contact brought new opportunities to help and share knowledge. Jake stood again on the observation deck, looking out at the dimensional equipment that had started as a tool for deception and was now being used for healing. Commander Hayes joined him. This turned out better than anyone expected. It did, Jake agreed. But the real work is just beginning. We've committed humanity to a long-term mission of helping people we'll probably never meet face-to-face. Amy Foster approached with a tablet full of messages. Captain, you need to see this. We've been getting communications from all over the galaxy. Other species want to join the interdimensional aid program. Jake looked at the messages from dozens of alien governments, all offering to contribute supplies, knowledge, or expertise to help the alternate reality survivors. Elena Ross came over with Dr. Vex. Both scientists looked exhausted but happy. Captain, Elena said, we've established a stable, permanent connection between the realities. The aid program can continue indefinitely. Dr. Vex added, my people are honored to be part of this mission. We began with deception born of fear, but you have turned it into hope. As their ship prepared to return to the Galaxy Council, Jake reflected on what they had accomplished. They had not only proven humanity's peaceful intentions, but had also created something unprecedented, a partnership that crossed the barriers between realities. The quantum communicator chimed with an incoming message from Admiral Sullivan on Earth. Jake, Admiral Sullivan said, The entire planet is excited about the interdimensional aid program. We've had millions of volunteers sign up to help. Scientists, doctors, engineers, teachers, everyone wants to contribute. Jake smiled. That sounds like humanity, Admiral. It is humanity at its best, Admiral Sullivan replied. When we see people who need help, we don't ask what's in it for us. We just help. As their ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, heading back to present their report to the Galaxy Council, Jake knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity had found its place in the galactic community not through conquest or commerce, but through compassion. The galaxy had feared that humans might become destroyers. Instead, they had become builders of hope across the barriers of reality itself. It was, Jake thought, the most human thing they could have done.